Welcome to our second interview ever on the Weight Loss Leaders podcast and YouTube channel. Today we have Rochelle, and Rochelle is a money genius, and we're going to talk a lot about why that is and why she's here. I'm Caryn Gillen. I'm a weight loss coach for leaders and entrepreneurs who are ready to be done with the struggle so that they can get on to whatever comes next, which is way more fun, like saving money. So Rochelle is here, and I wanted to have her on the show because I actually worked with her, and she helped me get my business finances under control. To be honest, I always felt like I did pretty well with money, but I wasn't sure because I'd never done a lot of research, and I just hadn't really done anything other than use my natural instincts, which turned out to be pretty good. But I know there are so many of us who come at finances with zero experience. We don't know what we're doing. We feel very insecure. And we think, actually, Rochelle and I think there are a lot of similarities between the way we eat and the way we save and the way we lose weight and the way we save money. So that's why I wanted to bring her on today. Would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, and thanks for having me here today. I'm super excited to be here. And for sure, you were like a rock star client. You're definitely an ideal client if there ever was one. And your instincts really were dead on. And I think it does have a lot to do with that overlap, right? So anywhere that there's discipline and baby steps to be applied, I do feel like there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So I'm curious how you came to this work in the first place.
So I just naturally have always been really drawn into managing money. Especially, I had my daughter when I was 19, so I was a young mom, and I knew like the buck was going to stop with me. So I needed to get really my stuff together so that I could provide the life that I wanted to provide for her. And so I started just doing one little thing at a time. And then once that was comfortable, then I would add something else in. I read a lot of books and blogs, and personal finance blogs written by women especially were not in the mainstream at the time. Worth It, Amanda Steinberg was just launching Worth It around that time. So she was one of the original blogs that I followed. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And I just personally just geek out on it and kind of kept it to myself because people don't really talk about money. And, you're kind of taught that it's rude or crass to want to speak about money. And so I just kind of did my own thing. I didn't want to make anybody else uncomfortable with it. And as I was going along, I noticed like I really am hitting the goals that I want for my family, and it's important. And I want to be able to share those tips and techniques to other people because, they all work hard for their money. We all work hard for our money.
Right.
It's really important to me that we all get what it is that we actually want out of that work.
Right. Which I think is something that's unique. I mean, I haven't talked with a whole bunch of money people, but something that felt like it was unique to you is your attitude around money. Like I had 8 calls with you and never felt even a hint of judgment about where my money was going or how I wanted to save it for the life that I want to have. So when you tell your story about I had a daughter and I was 19 and the buck stopped with me, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like there are some very individual needs for all of us with our money, and all of our results that we want to create are different. And I think that you really have an open stance that allows for all those results. So I really felt that in our work together.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for saying that. That's really important to me. One of the things I'll always remember, I was probably maybe 23. And I had a friend, she's a real good friend and I love her dearly. And she did hair at a small salon in like a little walk-in place. And I know she did a great job. But I went to a salon and I still go to the same person. So shout out to Lisa Strobin, and Havoc in Davenport, Iowa here. And, she was like, how much do you pay to get your hair done? And I told her, and she was like, I cannot believe you spend that kind of money. And I was like, well, it's kind of my treat and I feel amazing every time I leave. And then later I felt like, was so judgmental. I was like, she spends that much every month on cable TV, and I spend that once every 6 months getting my hair done. So I just thought that was really funny. And I thought, I hope I never make anybody feel that way. I think we all have our own thing. We can't all spend whatever we want on everything. But I think it's really important to identify what are those few things that really are important and spend heavily there. And then know where you're ready to scale back for in order to be able to make those other things happen.
Right. Like, so in my work, it's like, if you really love Pinot Noir, have the Pinot Noir and skip the tortilla. Like, what are the things that you can trade off? Yeah. Same concept. Okay. I was just curious if you've ever had any of the food, weight, body struggle in your life to actually really compare it, or if you've always,
Yeah. So when I had my daughter, I lost all my baby weight, like probably within 3 months. I was young and my metabolism was like on. And then started going out to eat a lot. I ate out every day for lunch with my coworkers, and slowly, embarrassingly, my daughter was about 5, and I was at my sister's house. We were there for a New Year's Eve gathering, and while I was I was definitely tipsy, and I was in there, and she had her scale sitting out, and I just had been feeling like really terrible about like how clothes fit me, and like just moving didn't feel good, right? Even just getting in and out of the car or bending over to pick something out just felt like stuffed, and so I stood on the scale and I was like, I'm at my full pregnancy weight, but I'm not pregnant. So, and I had gained 50 pounds when I was pregnant with my daughter. So that was like a real, like, okay. And so I had to kind of start introducing ways to, long-term, I did not want to binge diet. I didn't want to starve myself. I very much believe in like enjoying my life. So I didn't want to do anything that felt miserable. I wanted it to be like a long-term thing. So I did very similar to what I'm saying with baby steps. Like, okay, so like for the first few weeks, I was like just making sure I drank enough water. Nice. And once I got that down, I was like, okay, like, what can I have for breakfast that doesn't make me feel like sick to my stomach? And so now I still have all of those habits in place, which is really funny. So I still drink, not a great amount of water, but I try to drink more water. I have a handful of almonds every morning for breakfast and a couple hard-boiled eggs with no toast. But those are a couple of the things, like I know if I hit those things, then the rest of the day I can, mostly for lunch, I'll have something that I made the night before. That was a pretty healthy dinner. But come the weekend, like I'm totally going to go out and I'm going to have the nachos. If I'm out with out for dinner, I'm not going to order something that, this is another great example. I went out with a group of girls one night, and I mean, she was so disciplined and I totally respect that. But I mean, we were out for a couple of drinks. She ordered salad with no salad dressing and water. And I was like, good for you. That is not something that I'm willing to do.
Yeah. So for her, that value was more important than the value of having drinks with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And, her goal was really important. She was trying to get pregnant. So she needed to have like her, and that's another thing, like discovering your why, right? She knew what her why was. It was so much more important to her to get pregnant and have a baby than it was to have a have a drink and an appetizer with us. But so I just think that's a really comparable reason, because with me too, for budgeting, I always say discipline for discipline's sake. Like there's no point in that. When people say like, oh, I want to save $200 a month, I'm like, good luck to you, but you're never going to save $200 a month if that's your goal. $200 a month.
Tie it to something.
I love to name savings accounts. Yeah, I think it's really important. When you name it, like this is my vacation, or this is my Christmas money, this is my new car. Yeah. Then it's emotionally attached to something.
Okay. So how do you think that spending money and food or eating are related? Tell me your thoughts.
Well, I think buffering comes into play a lot. Binge eating and binge spending, I think both are very emotional.
Right. So we define buffering as anything that you do to kind of avoid being in the reality right now. So
Yeah.
overeating, overeating, overspending. Yeah.
So I think that, and the 80-20 rule, I think, is a great example where there's, if you eat 80% really well, then that 20% that you kind of spend on and don't need to track, like that feels very freeing for a lot of people. And same with budgeting. Like I definitely believe you should always give yourself some money that you don't have to account for. So
Fun
I call
money.
that my blow money or my fun money. And
I've heard it called walk around money. Wham.
ooh, that's a good one. Pocket money or walk around
Yeah.
money. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think that's really similar. Another weight loss coach friend of mine, one of the things that she was talking about that I thought was so it really like poignant. She said, I went out for dinner and I was eating it. It was this fantastic meal and I was full. And she's like, I knew I couldn't take it with me because I was not going directly home. I didn't have a car or anything to leave it in. And so she's like, I realized I could either finish it and stuff myself and ruin the experience, or I could accept the fact that I paid for this and I'm not going to eat it all. Like either way, it's wasting it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that whole enjoying that moment, what you're, what it is, the experience that you're getting for your resources, right? Whether it's your time or your money or the food that you're putting in your body.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's one where values start to come and get in the way of your goals. So I have the value of not being wasteful. I also have the value of being in a body that's a certain way. And so sometimes when they come up against each other, that's when it gets the most hard, feels the most hard. But yeah, it's wasted whether it's in the trash or on your ash.
In your body. Yeah, for sure. Especially if it makes you feel terrible, right? Like,
right.
I think, in tuning into that and being intentional, like, same with spending, maybe that's the right thing for you to splurge on. And maybe it's just as fun to window shop and not actually like buy it and bring it home.
And if you think about overspending too, like about eating, like say you're at pizza and you only want to eat 3 pieces, but there's 4 there. I just imagine like if I bought 4 bottles of shampoo, would I have to keep the 4th one or would I be okay? Like I've got 3 bottles of shampoo I get to enjoy.
Yeah, that's a great example too. And the other one is if I pay for something and then I feel bad about it, right? So if you're gonna eat the cheesecake, eat it and enjoy every single bite of it.
Yes.
If you're gonna eat it and berate yourself the whole time,
it's not worth it.
Take away your enjoyment. It's the same thing. Like people will go and they'll spend money and then they'll be like embarrassed or shamed and not take it out of the bag. Like it will be stuffed in their bag in their closet. And so they're not really even able to enjoy it.
Right. So just like we want to enjoy all the food we eat and the result we get, you want people to enjoy the stuff they actually like and get to wear it.
And that's why I really love, that zero-based budgeting that we do, where it's saying like, specifically, I'm saying, I know I'm going to spend this much money in my clothing account. So that when you spend it, there is no, oh, I shouldn't have spent that on my clothing. It's like, no, we've already went by line item by line on them. We've already decided that there was enough money in there for you to spend on your whatever amount of clothes that you're going to buy or that new purse. And the other thing I think is really good about that zero-based, and you tell me if there's anything that's similar in the weight loss categories, but a lot of times what we'll do is go through with prioritizing what is important to you. And sometimes like putting in a category to make sure that you spend for something. So it might be a massage or self-care or time out with your girlfriends, or
that's where all my money goes, by the way.
Yeah, Caryn is living my best life for sure. But I love that because when there's money left in that category, it's a reminder to you too, like, hey, you've decided that this was important for you. What are you going to do? Like, you've got money left over here. So for one of my clients, it was having clean windows just felt amazing to her. And, she's got this house with a lot of windows, and it's a lot of work to clean these windows. And so putting a budget category to have the windows cleaned felt like a huge luxury.
Yeah.
And then when she's doing that every month, and then she's looking over and noticing like, hey, there's enough money in here to, like, I need to call him to get him in here to put him on the calendar. So
Yeah. It reminds me, I have a number of clients, and a lot of the time I'm working with kind of total powerhouse women, and they're super busy, and they also have the idea of good self-care, and they have maybe a massage envy subscription for facials or massages. And we'll talk about maybe planning one. They'll say, oh, well, I've got 12 or 15 of them lined up. Yeah, I could go use one. I'm like,
yeah.
You haven't gone in a whole year?
Yeah. So that probably comes down to planning ahead, right? So just like, calendaring it out in advance. So they're planning ahead most of it, right? So they're already buying them.
Or we're spending in the idea of the person we want to be, but not showing up and living that way. I think we do that with food too. It's like, I'm going to buy all the perfect organic food and the kale and the whatever, and then it's going to sit in my fridge and then rot, as opposed to buying what you're actually going to eat because you enjoy it, right? What's going to work? Like, it costs more to buy the cut up carrots, but if you're going to eat them instead of throw them away, you're saving money.
Definitely. That reminds me of that snarky meme on Facebook that says like, I wish I was the person who brought all these groceries home. Like I thought I was when I bought all these groceries, like all this fresh food, and I'm not. Yeah. Same thing. Like, if you've got, the convenience of actually eating the food, or the idea that you're going to eventually get to it and then never actually.
Yeah. I like that. So being real about who you are today, like it's exactly what I talk about, being your best dieter self versus who you are.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me, I wanted to ask you about, I heard somebody talk about this one at one point. In financial planning, people often think of that future self who's going to retire someday as somebody else. It's not them. And I think we do the same thing with weight loss is, well, the person who wears the size 8 pants, like that's not really me. So today I can have the cupcake because that's never really going to happen. Do you see any of that with your work with folks?
Yeah, I think that's why there's such a big disconnect with saving for retirement, right? Like,
it's like someone else's life.
To be the person who saves for retirement.
Yeah.
But they also don't want to not have the thing, right? So, and that to me is why it's so important to start really small. And we've done this in our work together, where it's like, okay, if we know that you want to save 10 to 15 to 20% for your retirement, we know we'll get there eventually. It's a long game. It doesn't have to be overnight. So saying I'm going to put 20% of my income away in retirement right off the bat feels like, yeah, but then where am I going to get my massages? Right? Like, but what about all these other things I'm going to have to give up, especially when you start doing that zero-based budgeting and you have to start subtracting that money out of there. So in that case, just getting the habit set up is more important than how much you're actually doing, because you're going to go a few months and then you're going to increase it. And you're going to increase it. And so it's like incremental. So I think that's really important. And other ways that I would say that people do that with, it doesn't really feel like me. I think it's really hard for people to pay their debt early. When they're thinking like, yeah, but I want this next thing. And that feels like I'll never really not have a car payment. I've always had a car payment. I'll never really not have credit card debt. And same thing, just getting the story outlined where it's like, here's how much it's actually costing you, and here's how much time it's actually costing you. So when I like to think about it is, I'm not just losing out on the money that it's like I'm signing away all of my future money for this thing. And like, by the time you're getting there and you're paying for it, it's old and you don't even want it anymore. So like, start really thinking about, is that where I want my money to go? Or is there something else in the present that I want to be spending my money on? So that was the motivation for me when I put my debt snowball spreadsheet together. It was like, I think I was 23 at the time, and I realized, I was going to be 42 before I had these few things that I had paid off. And I was like, yeah, but where's all the other stuff that I want to
In between now and when I turn 42.
And so that was really my big motivator, because so much of that goes to interest. But I think those are the two disconnects. Like, yes, I really want to have a retirement account, and yes, I really do want to pay off my debt, but I don't want to give up what I have right now in order to.
Right. So again, it's that I'm going to have some short-term dissatisfaction so that I can have long-term satisfaction. But what you're saying is there's another layer to it. If you're putting it on a credit card or you're taking out a loan for it, is that even more of a negative that you have to pay for the thing you want right now for so long. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really that into the future. And I think too, for me, finance always comes back to freedom, right? So I want the freedom of choice. And so for me, putting that discipline in place so that I can have my freedom in the future is much more tangible. Like I can feel that. I can feel like, oh yeah, I do want to be in control of the things that I'm deciding. And I think that that's one of the best ways to do it. Like, to live beneath your means, save and put aside for it. And then when it comes up, then you can pay for it then. But that whole discipline for discipline's sake, like, no, like that's not the point. That's not the point of any of it. And stacks of money is not the point either. And the other thing that I would say though, is I still really do feel like I'm a big proponent for enjoying your life. And which is why I always have my clients like start out like, let's talk about where you really get the most joy from.
Yeah. Like, you're talking about freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like I like to say, like, if money and time weren't an issue for you, how would you spend your money and your time? Right. So if you won the lottery, like, what would you do? And a lot of people, it's like, oh, I would go for long walks. I would read a book. I would take a bath. I mean,
free.
Like, this is how my daily life would look. Right. And I'm like, okay, so what of those things can you already bring into like, and I think this is probably true for weight loss as well, where it's like, oh yeah, when I lose X amount of pounds, I'm going to allow myself to live this sort of a lifestyle.
Right.
And you and I talk about this as business owners all the time. Like, I think my favorite piece of advice that you gave at the retreat that we met at was, be the business owner today that you want to be in, 6 months from now.
Yeah. That's, I love that quote. And when you said lottery winner, I just remembered a money story that you're going to probably love. I'm driving down the freeway. I see the Powerball. It's at like 73 million or something. And the first thought was, I should get a ticket. And I was like, and what would I do if I won? I would keep life coaching. I would go get training from the woman who I've now trained with. And I would do like this in my business and this in my business. And I was like, isn't that great? Like, if I would have,
you're totally living your life.
I would have been doing what I'm doing right now.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah.
And actually, I have one of my initial sessions is called Dare to Dream. And that's a lot of what we do, is like walk through that. And I love so much that many of the women that I work with, when we're finished, they're like, I am already doing the thing I want to do most, which I think is the other reason why it allows them to kind of break loose of that, right? So it's like they don't have to hold on to their money and do things this specific way because they don't want to give up what would be good in their life. Like, you already have those things that really are most important to you. Yeah. So you don't need to like be afraid that if you apply discipline, that it's going to take that joy away.
So it's really dream about where do you want to be. We totally do that when we think about why do I want to lose weight? And then it's awareness of where you are right now, noticing how much of what you want you already have, and then working towards what's left.
Yes.
Yeah.
And enjoying the process, right? Yeah. Like, it's going to be a process. You're not going to get there overnight. And as long as you're not, expecting perfection from yourself before you're there, I just think it's a real steady and contentment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really true. And I think about it more neutrally with money. Like, of course you're gonna blow your budget some months. You're not gonna be perfect every month. Of course you're gonna not eat on plan every month
Mm-hmm.
either. And both of those things mean you're in the process and you're doing the work, and then you get to learn from them. Nothing has gone wrong.
Yeah. And nothing has gone wrong. That's a great one. But the other one is is it Zig Ziglar that's like,
Yeah.
if you aim for nothing, you'll hit it every time. Like
Every
for
time.
sure, if you're not doing a budget, and for sure, if you're not doing a meal plan, for sure, you're going to really blow it. But
Yeah.
just doing a little bit, like this is the other thing I say about goals too. I have this, goal setting spreadsheet that worksheet that I like to share. And one of them is like annual goals and like the big things that you want to set aside for money throughout the year. But the other one is quarterly goals. And that one I like to really break down into 90-day sessions. And you just like write down 9 new things that you want to do. They might be new things, they might be your favorite things, but like, what do I really want to do with my free time and my spare time?
Mm-hmm.
And I think by doing that, it's like breaking down, giving yourself permission to enjoy that slice, right? Like you're getting something to look forward to every 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't cost that much money. Most of the people, when they write those quarterly goals out, it's not like striving for perfection that you can never reach. It's like enjoying what's right there right now.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that reminds me of mine for this quarter was I wanted to watch less TV, get more sleep, and read more.
Mm-hmm.
But if I just focus on not watching TV, it feels terrible and all I want to do is watch TV. But if I
Mm-hmm.
focus on getting more sleep, I'm naturally in bed earlier and I've already read like way more books.
Oh, that is
So I
interesting.
like if I can tie what can I do more of, like your thing where I
Uh-huh.
started drinking more water first. I always recommend like start adding things before you take things away.
Yes, that's a good one. That was that one definitely I used. Instead of saying I couldn't have something, it was like I'm going to have 3 to 4 servings of vegetables.
Right.
And then I mean, you have to really save a lot of room in order to get that in, you
Yeah.
know,
Right.
or whatever it might be, especially if you're not used to eating it. So, yeah. And the other thing, I don't know about you, but if I'm eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, I crave them and they
Mhm.
actually sound good. And if I'm eating none of them, they sound terrible. So I don't know. What do you think is a good money parallel for that?
Having money in the bank feels really good. Having
Yeah.
debt grows more debt, usually, right? Just interest rates included. But
Yeah.
I don't know if
That
that's
is a
parallel.
Yeah, there's a great article I shared on my Facebook page not that long ago, and it was talking about that exact thing. It was like we teach so much that compound interest works in your favor for retirement, and so people know this, and I
But
think
it
it just
doesn't work
plays
as
out
fast
so
as debt.
easy. Yeah,
Yeah.
works just as fast with the debt, and it's so much more detrimental on the other side. And so, but I think like it almost looks too easy the way that they like write it out. It's like, oh yeah, if I do that, like I think it feels like too far away, right? Because like their examples are always like, if you put X, it's like, well, if I had that much extra money, I wouldn't be
Right.
wouldn't be wanting to be better with my money. I would already be doing it. But the other thing I think is that it's like it looks as if it's like a straight line where it's really like this,
Hmm.
which I mean I think all progress is that way. There's that especially for entrepreneurs, there's this thing and it's like
Right.
the actual
The
path
crazy
is
line of
like
what it
not
actually
like
looks
this.
like. Well, and even in weight loss, especially for women with our hormones and everything, even if the trend line is going down, you might be going up 5, down 3, up 1, down 6, up 4. So it's going down, but it looks kind of crazy, and that's just normal. That's actually to be expected.
Yeah, and if you check, so this is another good one. If you check your like your investments every day, it'll make you out of your mind. Just like checking the scale every day, like focus on like the things that you can control, right? So like, am I having my good habits? I'm going to celebrate that, and I'm not going to worry about what the scale is saying.
I actually like checking the scale every day as a mind management tool. So if you can get
Every
on the
day?
scale every day and have a neutral thought about it, you really get to see where your head is at. Is it like, I'm making this mean I'm a terrible person? Or it's just like, there's 3 numbers in a row.
Oh, so it's a good thought work tool for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And
But I
that
wouldn't want
again,
to look at my retirement account every day. That just, yes.
no. No, but so it's interesting because this is two parallels, right? And like neither one of them are right or wrong. And so that's the other thing that I really like to do with my clients too. Know yourself and
Mhm.
how you work well, and then we'll come up with something. So like I teach a general scheme of systems, but if something I suggest to you makes you feel like you're going to rebel, like
Mhm.
tell me so that we can figure out like what feels like a better fit for you. So I've read a lot of books. And so the benefit of that is like even something that doesn't work for me, I might know of, oh, you know what might work better for you is like this system of
Yeah.
management. So one of the clients I worked with, we got through setting up the budget and they were doing phenomenal on it. They cut their spending by like over $3,000 in a monthly period. And they were like, yeah, we really hate that. And I was like, okay, well, let's like, she's like, we we don't want to continue to lie to you. And I was like, yeah, no, like, let's not do that
That's not
because
helpful.
I'm your accountability partner. Right. So like, um, yeah, definitely be honest about like what works for you and what doesn't. And I think
Right.
knowing yourself. So the similar parallels that I can see there though, with the scale and the checking every day. The other thing I do is, I check my net worth once every 6 months.
Mhm.
And so it's not an everyday thing, but it does give me this overall sense of like progress over time. And I was the same way with my scale. I would just check my weight and write it down. I had like a little piece of paper in my pantry in my bathroom. And on Friday, I would write it in there. And
Mhm.
so that was enough for me.
Yep.
Um, because if I was doing it every day, then I would feel like discouraged if it went up or down. Like,
And and we would coach on that if you were my client. We would see what
yeah, yeah. So tell me what should I do about that?
you just have to do your thought work that I know you know how to do,
Yeah, I do know how to do that
right?
work,
And
but
so when you look at a scale or when you look at a bank account number or a
Mhm.
credit card statement, what you'll have is a feeling. You'll notice the feeling, but what's the thought that came before the feeling? Oftentimes it's, oh my God, I spent way too much money, which feels like dread or shame.
Mm.
You look at the scale in the morning, is it like, I totally screwed up yesterday? Is it like, those are 3 numbers in a row? Is it, I love my body? Is it, my body always shows up and supports me? Like
Ooh, I love that
we
one.
get to choose what we think about all the numbers in our lives, and it's completely up to us. We're the only people that get to manage our mind about them. And so I say take the opportunity.
Ooh, that's good. I love your thought work. That's yeah, I'm on my journey right now. So
Yeah.
I'm
It'll
still
keep
I'm
coming.
still definitely picking up lots of tips in new mindset habits every day. So
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to wrap this up because we have gone on longer than I typically do. Thank
oh,
you for
sorry about that.
everybody for listening. Oh no, it's good. So I want to ask, where can people find you? What do you recommend for staying in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can reach me at Rochelle at Art of Love and Money. Send me an email. I love to hear from people. My favorite thing is engagement and connection. So,
And we'll
and
put your
you can
email
sign up.
in the show
Yeah.
notes for sure. Okay.
Yeah. And then you can sign up for my newsletter that I send out every week on Friday mornings at artofloveandmoney.com, the bottom of the homepage there.
All right. The thing I love, I get your newsletter. The thing I love about it is like you're a real human in there. It's like everything that comes in the newsletter is like exactly where we all at. It's like related to the holiday that's here or whatever, but it's very
Oh, yeah. That's because I'm like real time writing it before I run out the door to work.
well, perfect. That's awesome. Okay. Is there anything else that you would want to add? And other than thank you so much for being here, I want to add that.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. No, like I said, Caryn, you're a complete inspiration to me. Your thought work and the way that you live your life. And I'm not kidding at all when I say Caryn's living my best life. Like I love,
That's
I
amazing.
love
Thank you.
the way that you really show up and but also the way you support other people and we're part of a coaching group together, and you just are always an inspiration to everybody in there, and I love that about you. And yeah, I just thank you for having me here, and thanks for being an ideal client and a rock star.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for helping me know that I was actually on the right track. I thought I was, but it's good to know for sure. All right. So we'll put the links in the show notes to get on her newsletter list at theartofloveandmoney.com. And if you are wanting to get a handle on your finances, I highly recommend reaching out, because there's nobody who's going to be more open and allowing and calm than this woman right here. So thank you for listening.
Oh,